Hey guys, welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming, and today I'm taking a look at Back 4 Blood. This was bought for me. It's not a company provided perk or anything like that, but a friend bought it for me, so I thought I'd do him the service of reviewing it. He also probably could have saved his money because it's on Game Pass as well, but whatever, he bought it for me, I played it on Steam, and I'll tell you my thoughts on it really. It's done by Untitled Rock Studios. I wasn't familiar with the name, but having looked it up after playing the game for the review, yeah, I mean, Back 4 Blood is very much Left 4 Dead, really. It shares a whole lot of similarities. It's clearly a new property that's aping Left 4 Dead, and there's a very good reason for that. It turns out Untitled Rock Studios is actually the people that developed the original Left 4 Dead in conjunction with Valve. Which, you know, you look at and you're like, oh, well, that's a good sign, right? And then you look what else they've done, and they did Evolve, which we previously reviewed on this channel, and neither myself nor Snare were particularly taken with that game. And then did a load of stuff for Oculus Studios as well, for the Go and the new one, which I have and can't remember the name of, which is ridiculous. The Quest 2, in fact. There you go. It came to me. Your brain still works sometimes. So, if you're not familiar with Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood is a 4-player co-op game. You can play it solo with bots, and you basically run through a series of missions, which ends with you getting to a safe room. During along the way, you fight a horde of undead, and you have, like your normie, just regular zombies, for the most part, and there are specials as well. All of which bears striking similarities to the Left 4 Dead specials. So you have a large fat one that explodes when it gets close to you. You have a ranged one, tanks, stuff like that. They've kind of amalgamated and changed them up a little bit, so they're not exactly the same, but they are still there. Now I'm you guys know me. I don't like competitive multiplayer, and I don't have enough friends to do competitive cooperative multiplayer. So I'm very much a single player kind of guy, and you can do it in this. The bots they're not awful, they're not great either, they're serviceable, I think would be the best way of putting it. They do help out when you're in the fight, but sometimes they won't initiate the fight, I kind of find. So if I turn around and there's like a giant zombie rampaging the way towards them, and they've just got their backs to it looking at me, I'm just like, lads, over there, lads. But they do react when I react, so I don't know if that's something in their coding, but they're okay. I'm more concerned by the fact single player is absolutely nerfed. There's no character progression. You can't earn anything to put towards like cosmetics and stuff like that. You just can't. It's completely you have to play with other people in order to do that. And I can sort of understand why they're doing it. But it's still a bit shitty for players like myself that don't really want to play online. The single player is online in and of itself, so if you don't have an internet connection, you can't play it. And of course, once the servers are taken offline in however many years' time, you won't be able to play the game at all, which sucks. The developers have said that there won't be DLC in pay-to-win DLC and stuff like that. It will be like cosmetics, things like that. That doesn't really fill me with a great lot of confidence, considering their track history with Evolve, which was just ridiculous DLC. DLC out of the bottom, I think would be the best way of putting that. Because you had to buy like the additional monsters and stuff like that, the stuff that really should have been included with the game, but they sort of piecemealed out to make you keep paying money. Pretty scummy, and there is a season pass for it, so I'm assuming that any extra levels or campaign missions or anything like that you will have to pay for as well. Either that or say you're playing with someone who has that and you have to download it. presumably onto your system and then not be able to play it when you're not playing with players that haven't bought it. So there's some junk data on your hard disk for no reason, really. The gameplay in itself is fun. I'll give it that. The guns do feel unique. They handle quite nicely. And shooting zombies is fun, for the most part. I do tend to be pretty burnt out on the whole zombie thing. We've had just so many games where you're just shooting zombies. I'm just like, I'm kind of done. We need to like pop them back in the box for a year or two, and then maybe have another look at it again when it's just not just completely saturated. And it is in all forms of media. What TV shows, like, you know, you had The Walking Dead and all the other ones that came out are sort of aping it. And it's just a genre I'm struggling to find any interest in because I've just experienced so much of it over the last few years. I think that's a fair opinion, but obviously, you know, your mileage will vary. I mean, you may be fully sort of wrapped up in the whole zombie thing still, and if that's the case, you know, more power to you. That's what I say to you about that. I mean, I'm kind of done with it, but you know, if you enjoy it, then that's fine. The game is pretty well optimized. The footage I just captured at the settings that it suggested. I didn't mess around with them or anything, and it gave me consistent 60 frames, no stutters, anything like that, perfectly fine. While using about 40% of my graphics card. So I imagine if I went into this settings and sort of beefed up, I could get well, either a better visual fidelity or certainly a lot better performance if I take the VSync off, which I imagine it probably enabled. It does have DLSS as well, and although it does boast support for ultra-wide monitors, I've seen a lot of people having problems with that in the forums, saying that it like cuts off the top of the picture. So yeah, I think there's some work to be done on it. I mean, I didn't have any problems playing it whatsoever at all. It's a nice game. It's just it's about, I haven't finished it yet, but it's apparently about 10 hours long. There's 33 campaign missions in total. Obviously with the season pass we expect more via DLC. There are a few bits which bug me outside of like nerfing the single player progression. The fact that attachments, I like the attachment system. So you get a gun, you're like, that's a good gun, I like this gun, and then you find an attachment like a bigger clip or a scope, and you're like, I'll put that on, and then you come across another gun, you're like, that's a better gun than mine, and you pick it up and you lose all of your attachments because you can't take them off the other gun. I don't like that, especially like when there's an attachment on before you pick it up and then all of a sudden you've got like a ×8 sight on something you didn't want a ×8 sight on, like a shotgun for instance. It's just like, I don't want that, but now I'm stuck with it unless I find something that would replace it in that slot. That's the only way you can sort of get rid of it. Not ideal. I'd like to be able to like keep like attachments, especially as they're like ranked as well, so you get like, you know, rare, ultra rare stuff like that. You know, I'd like to be able to keep hold of the attachments and sort of outfit my guns as I want on the guns that I want. But certainly in the single player campaign, you do carry your guns across missions. So whatever you finish one mission with, you'll start the next one with. But as I say, you'll find other guns and you'll be like, well, I kind of want that, but I don't really want to give up the attachments I've got, so we'll just leave it. So you do end up like picking a gun and being like, well, I'll just keep that then. Regardless of if the other gun's better, you may value the attachments more, so removing them would have been a really nice thing to see in the game. The game itself, there's a few little bits, little niggles in it for me. In that I mean, tall boys are a pain in the arse. I'll just come out and say it. When you're playing single player, and the bots aren't like as clever as people when it comes to like attacking the specials and sort of teamwork and things like that, the tall boy tend to come at you. They've got a really obvious weak spot on their shoulder with their big sort of wonky arm that they use to batter people with, which is fine. And you know, if you hit the weak spot, the arm comes off and he dies pretty quick. Otherwise, it takes a load of ammo to put down. And the problem is he approaches you with the weak spot sort of like behind him, so he approaches you sort of leading with his other shoulder. So until he attacks, it's very difficult to like take him out. And normally, if you're playing with people, I would imagine that you'd flank him, and you know, someone would be getting like advanced on, and the others would just go round the sides and take out his weak spot fairly efficiently. But no, the bots aren't clever enough to do that. So tall boys are a bit of a pain in the arse. I find the sound very problematic as well. I remember playing like the first level where you're in a building and you can hear like all these weird noises and the closed captions coming up like "Exploder is idle" and stuff like that. You're like, what? But it's all the noises are so loud, even though they're about 3 floors above you, that you just literally sort of like sneak around every single corner when you should be able to romp. And then you get to the point where they sneak up on you. You know, they use the noises of the zombies in the reverse of what I would have liked them to have done. In that, while they're not doing anything, they're very, very vocal, and you can hear them too clearly, more clearly than you need to, which affects the way you play the game. But you'll be in a firefight, and 2 tall boys will just spawn in out of fucking nowhere, not make any noises until they start shellacking you, or you turn around and there's fucking 3 of them there. The game isn't shy about introducing you to the specials. It will put multiple ones of them against you, which can get a bit of a pain in the ass. And they don't really change. I mean, once you've played the first few missions, you're not going to see too many outside of that. You've seen pretty much what the game's got for the most part. There are a couple that come up a bit later. I think they should have introduced them slightly more sort of in a drip feed fashion, because like in that first building alone, there's about 3 different special types that you'll take on. So it's just like, wow, you're leading with everything you got there, pal, aren't you? So I think from that perspective, the game, although it remains fun because the shooting of the zombies is quite fun, I don't think there's enough in there at the moment to keep me coming back to it, to be like, I must complete it, because no, I kind of feel like I've seen everything the game has to offer, and you know, outside of the occasional want to shoot a zombie in the face, which, you know, we all have, despite the fact, you know, we've all done a great deal of it, there is the underlying bit of being able to murder people scot-free because it's a zombie and doesn't matter anymore. I think we're all a bit psychopathic in that regard. But I mean, it's a decent game. It's on Game Pass, so you know, if you've got Game Pass, absolutely no reason not to give it a try. There is a card system to it, which basically allows you to assemble a deck so you can use different cards to give you different buffs. So it's more about tailoring your playstyle, so you can sort of heavily tilt your deck towards melee combat, or you know, increasing your survivability, stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I'm never a big fan of cards. I'd rather have just a skill tree than a deck of cards. I don't like them very much. I haven't liked them when they were in Battlefront 2, the new one. And I was a lot more lenient on Battlefront 2 than a lot of people were, but I didn't like the cards. I still don't like the cards. They've still got them. They've just altered the way they work. I don't know what it is. I just don't like card decks in games unless it's like Hearthstone or something of that manner, you know, a collectible card game. So yeah, and you've got like a whole facility where you can create decks back at the camp, and you can do training, and really a nothing burger for solo players though, because your character progression means nothing. You go in like and play the game and just do the campaign, and you know the camp means very little to you when you're playing through the campaign solo. To be fair with you, so I never really paid too much attention to it. And that's my opinion about Blood, really. I mean, it's a fun game, but I don't think it's gonna retain interest for very long, because it pretty much sets its stall out right at the start of what it's gonna supply. And if you know you want 10 hours of that, then that's fine. But for me, I think I won't be playing it a whole bunch. I mean, as I say, the core mechanics, the gameplay, the gunnery, and melee combat is all fun. All the guns are distinct and each handled differently and in their own way fun to use. But it just doesn't hold my interest, to be perfectly honest with you. But don't take my word for it. Go on Game Pass, download it, have a play, see what you think. It runs pretty damn well. So even if you've got a lower end system, you're going to be able to at least tweak it down to the point where it plays perfectly well, and you will need quite a good frame rate because it is a first person shooter and a busy one at that. There are some nice touches in the game, like you can trigger hordes by setting off car alarms and disturbing birds, which I don't think is one I've seen before. I'm trying to remember. No, I don't think I've seen it before. I've seen car alarms before. I've seen that in a few games, but flocks of birds, that's kind of new for me. So, but yeah, just be careful with those. I had an unfortunate incident where I was using a desert eagle, shot through the zombie and into the flock of birds behind him and caused a horde. It was not a fun time. But, you know, at least it was a story I got to tell you guys, so there's that. Otherwise, it's just like, yeah, I killed a load of zombies. The big ones are assholes. Yeah, they're like, you get super big ones as well, like ogres, I think they're called, where they're giant. They're like 5-6 meters tall, and they bat you around, and the sort of wibbling motions of your arms as you fly through the air is actually quite comical. I think they need to do something about that. And you do feel, I want to say float. You don't feel like you're being thrown. You feel like you're floating and just change direction kind of thing. You'll understand if you play it, but yeah, it doesn't feel great when you're getting like battered across the map. I'm like, I like the core of the game. It's just like a lot of the stuff surrounding it either needs work or just doesn't hold any interest for me. So I know it's getting some really good reviews. It's very positive on Steam at the moment, with like 2,250 reviews. I'm not that positive on it, but I do like it. It's not a game that I'm going to shit all over, but yeah, I'm not sure I'll come back to it as often as I would other games. I mean, I mean games like BattleTech. I play that at least once a week now, even so long after its release, because it's just a fantastic game. Or XCOM 2, for instance. Stuff like that I can really go back to. This, not so much. As I said, on Fight Pass? No, that's not even the same thing. Game Pass. It's on Game Pass. So, yeah, download it, have a go, see what you think. Hope you love it, because like I'm sure there are people out there that do, for sure. I wouldn't say I love it. I kind of like it, but with reservations. Anyway, that's me done for this week. I'll catch you next time. Take it easy, guys.